Hey guys, it's Myiesha from Sephora's Pro Team, Sephora's own personal artistry team. I'm here to show you my current brow routine because I get a lot of questions on it. So I just want to show you some tips and tricks on how to draw on your brows if you don't really have very much. So let's get started. So welcome to the Browless Wonder. I've come in to bare my soul to you that I don't really have a lot of brow. I wasn't really born with a lot of brow, but over the years I've kind of come up with a routine that works for me to build out a brow that sort of goes with my makeup style. The first thing I want to do is dust my brow area with translucent powder. I'll be using my favorite, the Mercier translucent powder. I have this mini size because I travel with it quite a bit. If you don't really have a lot of brow hair, you want to dust with a little bit of powder, whatever you use on your face or your favorite translucent powder, because if it's too creamy from your foundation that you put on or your moisturizers, your brow products are not going to stay. Some people use primers and things like that. I find just putting a little bit of translucent powder, because I have such oily skin, works for me. I'm just using my Choice Rock brush, just because I use it for everything, because it's a nice little shape. It's what I used to put my blush on this morning. Okay, so especially in this area where I have a lot of exposed skin that I'll be drawing on, you just want to make sure it's nice and matte. Okay, so once we've done that, I'll be using a few things. The main things I'll be using are the Tarte Brow Mousse and the Marc Eyebrow Pencil. I like to start with a brow pencil because I find that provides me with the sharpest application, and when you don't really have a lot of brow hair, you want nice, defined, clean lines. So this one is the Marc Brow Pencil in dark brown. So the first thing I want to do is just sort of comb up my brows a little bit. And by combing them upward, you'll see like any areas where you, in particular, have any like extra sparse areas where you need to probably fill in a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to start from the beginning of my brow. And just taking my time, I'm drawing a straight line from the beginning up to my arch. And then from there, I'm drawing a straight line down. I'm going to clean it up a little bit. So that should be the framing for your brow. And then when you fill in with the color, you'll get the thickness and the fullness, but this really gives you a nice sort of sharpness. And I like to do this first on both brows because I can sort of measure it up and make sure everything looks even. Sometimes one brow will sit a little bit lower naturally than the other. I find that this brow for me sits a little bit lower. So I tend to draw this one a little bit higher and this one a little bit lower to sort of even things out. So a straight line from here to here, and then here to here. So I think one of the benefits of not really having very much brow hair is that I can change them all the time and try new styles. I've been really into sort of like a straight, sort of like Korean influenced brow. But if you really want to scare yourself, go back like 3 years on your profile pictures and you'll find some really scary brows most likely that we don't want to talk about. I used to have these like sort of like curved like villain eyebrows that I wasn't really proud of. But now I do something a little bit straighter, a little bit thicker, a little bit more natural. Okay, so once you have that, you can sort of look at them and see if they're even and see if the height of them is good. Okay, so then we're going to move into our brow mousse. Well, I really love Tarte's brow mousse or brow pomade for those of you that are familiar with pomades. So this stuff is great because it has a consistency of like a cream eyeshadow or a cream liner. So it really stays put all day. It's completely waterproof and it goes on so nicely. I use two different colors. I use taupe and I use medium brown, only because I like a lighter color through the body of my brow and the darker on the tail of my brow. I find that it gives the most natural effect. So I would say the best rule of thumb with pomades or mousses is to try to apply them like a powder. I find a lot of people just kind of go in and apply them like really, really heavily, like a cream eyeshadow or something, but you want to really work it into the brush. and apply like a powder. Just work it into the brush on the back of your hand, and then you're going to go in and just really apply in light strokes. Now I have a ton of product on my brush right now, so I'm not going to start in the beginning of my brow because that's how you're going to get harsh lines. I'm going to start in the body of my brow, and then when my product is kind of out of my brush and my brush is a little bit dry, then I'll go in and fill in the beginning of my brow. And that's how you get that nice sort of blend where you don't see any harsh lines at the beginning of your brow. And I would say when you're choosing your brow color, go with the lightest color you can sort of get away with, because I think when you see my skin tone, you don't necessarily think I would use taupe, but it's a good color for me because it's slightly darker than my skin and gives me a good definition. And then I just use the medium brown, which is pretty deep, just to do the tail of my brow where I want a lot of definition. The same thing over here, starting in the body of my brow and really filling it in. And then when my brush is sort of empty, doesn't really have very much product in it, then I'm going to do the beginning. Okay, so we're going to move on to the deeper color, which is medium brown. And what I love about the Tarte brow mousses is the color range is really great. This color is pretty deep, and it's not even the deepest color they carry. I'm always looking for something in my kit that I can use on all skin tones, and I believe their dark brown, the shade that's deeper than this medium brown, is really nice. It works on all skin types, or if you have someone with really black hair. So same thing, working into my brush. So now I'm going to do the tail of my brow. So this is the same concept if you're thinking about brow powders that come with two different colors. Same thing. You don't necessarily have to use two different colors. This is just what I really like to do. The same thing over here. I'm going to clean it up with a little concealer afterwards. I like the brush that comes in the kit. I also have been really liking the Eco Brow brush for pomades. I find that it's really easy to get the product on and really easy to blend it. Same concept though, it has like sort of angled brush with a spoolie on the other end. Okay, so don't be too concerned about getting them perfectly symmetrical. As long as they're the same height and sort of the same thickness, you'll be good. The next thing I want to do is clean up my brows. This step isn't necessary. This is something I like to do if I'm going out or if I'm going to be on camera or something, because it gives a nice clean, crisp edge. I really love the Sephora Bright Future Concealer. So the reason I really love it for cleaning out my brows and also for other things is that it sort of waterproofs itself. It's a formula that sets on its own, so you don't really have to worry about using a ton of powder, and you don't want anything too creamy near your brows. So I'm just using this tiny little brush. Again, I think it's a Choice Rock concealer brush, but I use it for everything. So I'm taking a little bit, and I'm only really gonna conceal here, right in the arch where I'd want to lift my brow. So I'm going to draw a nice defined line and then drag it downward. You can conceal on top if you want. I would say just don't go throughout the entire brow. Maybe just conceal and brighten a little bit right on the arch. If you brighten too much above the brow, it sort of brings your brow bone forward and kind of can distort your features a little bit. And it looks a little bit more natural if you don't have a sort of like bright line on top of your brow. So if you find that you're not getting the most defined line with your brow products, you can always go in and brighten with a little bit of concealer. And it's usually going to be the same color that you would use to brighten your under eyes. So don't feel like you have to buy anything special. And then also think about too, if you're going to be wearing a dark lip or something a little bit more dramatic, you can make your brows a little bit lighter so they're not distracting so much from the rest of your look. I kind of have on like my everyday sort of like smoky eye, so I can go sort of medium with it. So another product I really, really love is the Benefit's Gimme Brow. So I never really used brow gel before I tried this product because I have like 7 hairs total. I feel like I didn't need it. But this is great because it gives texture to the brows. It's sort of like a thickening hair gel in a way that has color, but for the brows. So it has this teeny little brush, and you can go in and sort of give yourself that feathered look. So the thing about drawing in your brows when you don't have much is that you just have a shape. You don't really have any texture. This provides you with like a really beautiful texture to your brows. So they're kind of standing out a bit. So I like a feathered sort of like messy brow look. I feel like it's really fresh. It's really new looking. So I just sort of brush up the beginning of my brow to give it a little bit of a flare. Same thing over here. These are really great too if you color your hair and you want something a little bit lighter. They have a blonde, or if you're blonde and you feel like your hair is a bit darker and they don't stand out, this will give you a really nice tint. So when you're done, if you feel like you need to clean up anything, I would say go ahead and grab your brow pencil again and just sort of sharpen any lines if you feel the need. And if you're ever drawing on your brows and you really love the shape, but maybe it's a little bit too harsh or a little bit too dark, you can use the spoolie or the little brush on the end of your product, and that blends everything, but it'll still maintain that nice shape that you got. Okay guys, so this is my current brow routine. For those of you who don't have very much brow hair, I hope this definitely helped. For those of you who have gorgeous full brows, if you know someone who has a little bit of a sparse brow or maybe going through some hair loss, hopefully this helps out. So if you want to learn more tutorials, please be sure to comment below and be sure to subscribe. So we'll see you soon.